Peter Wyse from Warner Brothers. I'm here to talk about Middle-earth, Shadow of Mordor on Inside Xbox.
No Inside Xbox, que continua aqui na BGS 2014. Agora eu vou conversar com Peter Wyse, que é da Warner Bros., do Shadow of Mordor. I played a little bit at the booth at Warner Bros. And I love it.
Oh,
this is a great game.
That's great.
So, how did you came up with the idea of making a Lord of the Rings game?
Right.
Mixing combat, which is great combat,
Right.
with a little bit of strategy and open world.
Right. Well, you know, working at Warner Brothers, we have access to great properties, Lord of the Rings being one of them, since, you know, we have that movie license. And we wanted to do something special with this game. And so we looked at the period of time between The Hobbit and the Lord of the Rings, and we realized, like, Mordor has never been explored or really even visually realized outside of just the cracks of Mount Doom and the dark Mordor that you see in the movies. And we just thought it was a great place to set an adventure. And also, when we thought about the kind of special kind of game that we wanted to make, and we came up with this idea of the Nemesis system, where every enemy was going to be different. Like, what better system to apply that to than the machine that, like, just cranks out the Uruk and the orcs? You know, these things are born out of the earth, and they're just created out of nothing almost, out of that darkness. And with the Nemesis system, we can make these orcs so that they're unique to every player's game. Like, no two orcs will ever be the same.
This is insane.
Yeah, it's awesome. Not only that, like, they're different, but they grow in power, and they remember you from when you, like, if they beat you, then they'll call you out if you track them down for revenge, and they'll say, oh, you came back for more. And then if they beat you again, then they'll say, oh, aren't you getting tired of this? I'm getting tired of this. You know, so it was really just looking at Lord of the Rings and coming up with this idea, and then one idea just led to another, and, you know, that's where the game was born.
Where in the Lord of the Rings universe the game fits?
Yeah, so this game takes place right between the events of The Hobbit and the Lord of the Rings. And we know that in that period of time, Sauron returned to Mordor, where he gathered his army for the war that we see in Lord of the Rings. We also know that Gollum went in search of the rings in Mordor. And so we run into Gollum in our own adventures. And we have that connection to him with this spirit that bonds to us. So you play Talion, a ranger who's guarding the Black Gates against Sauron's return. And it's been 2,000 years since they've seen him. And on the evening of his return, that's when you're captain of the watch. And he slaughters all of your forces, he kills your family, and in fact he kills Talion himself, but as you're about to die, they're summoning this spirit back, and it's the spirit of the elf Celebrimbor, who forged the Rings of Power. And so everyone is getting drawn back to Mordor, and Celebrimbor keeps Talion alive, and together he bonds himself to Talion and gives you the power of the shadow. And it's that power that you use to invade Sauron's army, to look into the minds of your enemies, and eventually even dominate them and grow your own army. So, you know, that was the jumping off point for us. That's where we are in time, in those period of events between The Hobbit and the Lord of the Rings.
And who wrote this story?
So this story, it was crafted by the team at Monolith, but our main writer was Christian Cantamessa, and you might know him from Red Dead Redemption. He was the same writer of all the adventures that you had in Red Dead Redemption. And Lord of the Rings, Shadow of Mordor, it really lends itself to that same open structure where you can dive in and you can take on some enemies, but then if you want to go experience some story, we have 3 or 4 different missions available at any time, and you can go and try some story out, advance the story, get back to your open world adventures. So it was really great working with him because he had already had a structure like this for Red Dead, and we were just able to tap into that. He did some great writing, some great performances from the actors who lent their body movements to it. And whether you play it in English or, you know, we fully dubbed it in Brazilian Portuguese as well, so you can experience the whole game fully dubbed in Brazilian Portuguese.
That's so great. The game is already available, but not everybody knows about the game. So, can you explain why people should play Shadow of Mordor?
Right. Well, if there's only one reason to play Shadow of Mordor, it's for the Nemesis system. It's the fact that my enemies are different than your enemies. Like, we're gonna have different experiences, and it really becomes personal. I can't tell you how many people have come up to me and just said, oh, that orc that killed me, I'm gonna get him this time. I stayed up for an extra half an hour last night before my flight so I could hunt him down and get him he was really making me mad, so I hunted him down. And everyone has their own personal story, so you've got to check it out. You've got to see what everyone's talking about with this Nemesis system, and it's definitely worth playing.
Então você já escutou o que ele falou. Por conta desse sistema Nemesis, você precisa jogar, porque, cara, o jogo nunca fica igual. O meu jogo é diferente do seu. Vale muito. Eu joguei um pouquinho, achei animal. Bom, o Inside Xbox continua aqui na BGS.